Six Flags Entertainment is one of the world's leading amusement park chains, especially when it comes to roller coasters. Between the 15 Six Flags parks located around the world, there are 165 different coasters in operation, with many more under construction. What I want to do today is rank my 15 favorite roller coasters out of the 165 currently at Six Flags parks. Now just a heads up before we begin is I haven't been to every single amusement park in the chain, but the only one that might have a coaster capable of ranking inside my top 15 is Laron with the B&M Mega Coaster Goliath. If you've ridden it before, let me know where you think it would rank for me, and if you've been to any Six Flags parks, drop your own rankings in the comments. Alright, let's get started, and begin at one of the original Six Flags properties. Number 15 is Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia. One of Six Flags' closest relationships is with a manufacturer known as Rocky Mountain Construction. This company, among other things, transforms old, rough wooden coasters into exciting wood and steel hybrid coasters like Twisted Cyclone. Even though this is one of their shorter rides, it's still chock full of exceptional ejector airtime, the strongest in the park easily. It's also got 3 inversions and interacts with its structure on its second lap around. I do really like this ride, but there's many RMCs in the Six Flags chain I prefer to this one. For example, number 14 is Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. I've always said this is a fantastic headlining attraction for this park because it really has a bit of everything. Lots of airtime, similar to Twisted Cyclone, and an even better set of inversions, which I really appreciate. I enjoyed this layout a lot because it seems like it evenly focuses on these two things, giving the coaster a lot of variety. Not to mention, the Joker colors green and purple on each rail is such a cool touch. Number 13, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. I think this is going to be one of my more controversial rankings in this video, but I've always found Superman fairly overrated and nowhere near my favorite coaster at the park. The layout has amazing variety with out and back camelbacks in the first half and a twister section in the second half. But it's how the trains traverse the elements and how it feels in general that really hurt this experience for me. That said, it's still got some outstanding airtime that it should absolutely be credited for. Number 12, Medusa Steel Coaster at Six Flags Mexico. The only international Six Flags park I've been to is home to 2 roller coasters that make my list, first with Medusa Steel Coaster, which is another RMC. Contrary to most of the others, this one puts more emphasis on speed and turns rather than airtime. As much as I prefer their airtime-centric experiences, it's amazing Medusa turned out as good as it did. The pacing this ride offers is spectacular, it's got 3 very fun inversions, and at night, this is the best coaster in the park. But by day, and in most other circumstances, I still give that honor to Superman El Último Escape at Six Flags Mexico. This could really go either way for me. I really like both of this park's top coasters. But Superman was such a fun ride and really is just a beast of a coaster. It stands 219 feet tall, making it by far the tallest roller coaster in Latin America. But it's how it uses that height that matters, and there is so much variety in this layout. It's got tons of sustained airtime moments, but is also among the greatest coasters in the world for laterals. It could afford to be a tad more forceful, but that's if we're really getting nitpicky. Superman is a great hypercoaster. Number 10, Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. A rather unique attraction being that it's the only single rail coaster on this list, Wonder Woman was the prototype RMC Raptor, and I don't think they intended for it to be this intense. The pacing on this ride might literally be the best in the world. However, it isn't without its flaws. Not only is the layout very short, but it doesn't track as smooth as it probably should, and the restraints are uncomfortable. But I'll always look past these things because Wonder Woman is a powerhouse and I love a coaster that displays this much power. Number 9, Goliath at Six Flags Great America. Though it might not look it, Goliath is a wooden roller coaster, and when it opened in 2014, it broke several records for the genre. Not only is the ride huge with a steep first drop and ejector airtime hills, but it contains 2 outstanding inversions, which is my favorite collection on a Woody. Granted, most that go upside down only do it once, but you've still got to appreciate how these things hang you upside down for multiple seconds at a time. A common criticism that I will agree with is Goliath could afford to be a longer ride, but everything else about this coaster is incredibly enjoyable. And now, maybe for my most unpopular take of the video, number 8 is Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. Since I first rode this coaster in 2021, I've always considered it massively underrated. I'm not sure how it's aged since, but at the time, I definitely wouldn't consider it too rough. As a matter of fact, it was somewhere right in the middle where it wasn't exhausting to re-ride, but had that wooden coaster bite to it that you know and love. Boss's layout is actually enormous, and I have no idea why that's not talked about more. You don't need to be a fan of this ride to admit that the amount of wood used in this structure is an architectural marvel. And ride experience-wise, it's easily one of the top 3 most intense wooden coasters I've ever been on. Definitely something you don't see every day. Number 7 is Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. Originally when I put this list together, I thought Goliath would end up higher, but then it hit me just how good the Six Flags lineup is. Either way, this is my favorite B&M hypercoaster in the chain, and it's not even remotely close. It's the only one I've ever been on with sustained ejector airtime and a turnaround that feels like it's trying to rip your head off. Contrary to most others, there's no mid-course brake run disrupting the pacing, which really allows Goliath to excel in pacing. Considering the type of ride this is, I think it's a virtually perfect roller coaster and well worth the trip to this park alone for. Next up, let's knock out the 3 best Six Flags RMCs, starting with number 6, Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This is probably the most unique hybrid coaster they've ever built because it's capable of racing each time you go around the layout. Unfortunately, due to the park's slow operations, it rarely does so on a consistent basis. But the good news is the layout is so good that you're guaranteed a fantastic ride anyway. The variety of airtime and inversions on this coaster is tremendous, and I love that you experience each color track in the same ride. I will just throw this out there though, if Twisted Colossus dueled every time, it would have ranked a spot, maybe 2 spots higher on my list. Number 5, Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England. Another phenomenal RMC, Wicked Cyclone fixes an issue that I have with many of the manufacturer's other rides, and that's length. This thing makes 3 laps around its structure, sometimes weaving in and out of it, which is an element I absolutely love. Similar to Twisted Colossus, it's got a great collection of airtime and inversions, and on all my rides, it's been paced to perfection. I've always loved Wicked Cyclone, but a ride I love even more is number 4, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Even though this ride's layout is on the shorter side, it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise why this is my favorite RMC in the Six Flags chain. They were able to so creatively build these massive elements into a quarry wall which the park sits within, and the way each of these moments play into that is awesome. I especially love the 2 drops that shoot down the cliffside because the airtime you get in the back is absolutely wild. Iron Rattler is a very unique coaster and really exactly what this park needed back in 2013. And kicking off the top 3 is what would probably be a lot of people's favorite Six Flags coaster, and that's X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. There's no doubt X2 is the most unique roller coaster in the Six Flags chain. The 4th dimension nature of the ride allows your seats to rotate throughout the layout, and it is genuinely insane. That first drop is probably the most demented drop I've ever experienced, and it catches me off guard every single time. Everything else I've gotten relatively used to with this being my home Six Flags park, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate the elements. X2 is a one-of-a-kind experience on this side of the world, and it deserves to be recognized as one of the most creative designs ever in the amusement industry. Number 2, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. By far one of the greatest wooden roller coasters in the world, El Toro doesn't even feel real. The airtime rider's experience on this thing doesn't make sense. It is so astronomically powerful on each element from the first drop to the second camelback. And how could I forget the Rolling Thunder Hill, perhaps my favorite moment on the entire ride. If there is a slight downside with El Toro, I do think the middle section is a lot weaker than the rest, but it's brief and doesn't take away too much from the otherwise superb pacing. Now I'm guessing a lot of you are confused and wondering what could be taking the number 1 spot if I've already mentioned El Toro and X2. But we're actually going to remain at Six Flags Great Adventure because my favorite Six Flags coaster is Kingda Ka. I know this might seem like an outrageous opinion to many of you, but I've never experienced anything like the front row on this out-of-control Stratocoaster. Well, except Top Thrill Dragster, rest in pieces. I don't feel ashamed to admit that the launch on Kingda Ka is my favorite moment on any roller coaster I've experienced. But then you shoot up a 456-foot hill, making this the tallest, not to mention fastest coaster in the entire country. Is it a short ride? I mean, absolutely, but every second of this ride is phenomenal, and I think it deserves so much more respect amongst roller coaster enthusiasts. But there you have it, my 15 favorite roller coasters in the Six Flags chain. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe to Coaster Dash so you don't miss any content like this in the future. Also, check out my new merchandise store where you can buy a Coaster Dash t-shirt, hoodie, or something else that might pique your interest. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye guys.